I am Nicolaus Copernicus, born on February 19th, 1473, in the city of Thuringia, in Royal Prussia, a region under the crown of the Kingdom of Poland. My life unfolded at the intersection of faith and reason, a duality that would define my contributions to both science and society. I am remembered as the man who dared to move the earth and place the sun at the center of the universe, challenging centuries of tradition and igniting a revolution in thought. But my journey to this profound insight was neither quick nor easy. It was a life of relentless study, cautious innovation, and the careful balancing of radical ideas with deep personal humility. I was born into a prosperous family of merchants and civic leaders. My father, also named Nicholas, was a wealthy copper merchant and civic leader in Thuringia. My mother, Barbara Watson Road, came from a prominent family of merchants and landowners. However, tragedy struck early in my life. My father died when I was about 10 years old, leaving my mother to care for me and my three older siblings. It was my maternal uncle, Lucas Watson Road, who stepped in to guide my education and future. He was a powerful and ambitious man who would become the Prince Bishop of Warmia, and he ensured I received the finest education available. At the age of 10, I began my formal schooling in Thuringia and later in Chelmno, where I excelled in Latin, the language of scholarship. In 1491, at the age of 18, I enrolled at the University of Krakow, one of the leading centers of learning in Europe at the time. There, I immersed myself in the study of the liberal arts, grammar, rhetoric, and logic, as well as arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy. The university exposed me to the works of ancient and medieval scholars, including Ptolemy and Aristotle, whose geocentric model of the universe was the prevailing paradigm. However, I also encountered early criticisms of this model and learned to appreciate the power of observation and mathematical reasoning. After 3 years in Krakow, I left without completing a degree, but the seeds of my later work had been sown. My studies had equipped me with the tools to question established knowledge and seek new answers. In 1496, my uncle Lucas arranged for me to study canon law at the University of Bologna in Italy. This was part of his plan for me to enter the church, a prestigious and stable career path. Though I obeyed his wishes, my interests expanded far beyond ecclesiastical law. In Bologna, I encountered the works of Greek and Roman thinkers that reignited my passion for astronomy. I met Domenico Maria Nevera, an eminent astronomer who became both a mentor and collaborator. Together, we conducted observations of the night sky, and I began to notice discrepancies in the Ptolemaic system. For instance, the apparent retrograde motion of planets seemed unnecessarily complicated in a geocentric framework. During this period, I began exploring the ancient idea of heliocentrism, the belief that the sun, not Earth, was at the center of the universe. This idea was not entirely new. It had been proposed by ancient Greek philosophers like Aristarchus of Samos, but it had been largely dismissed or forgotten. My own observations and growing mathematical knowledge suggested that this radical idea might hold the key to understanding the cosmos. In 1503, I completed my studies in canon law at the University of Ferrara, earning my doctorate. I returned to Poland to take up a position as a canon at Frombork Cathedral, a role that provided financial security and the freedom to pursue my intellectual interests. Though I was officially a cleric, I never took holy orders. My position allowed me to live as a scholar and administrator, managing the cathedral's affairs while dedicating my time to the study of astronomy, medicine, and economics. Frombork, a small town on the Baltic coast, became my observatory. Using simple instruments like quadrants and astrolabes, I began systematically observing the heavens. My work was painstaking and methodical. I recorded the positions of stars and planets, calculated their movements, and compared my findings with existing models. I also studied ancient texts, seeking inspiration and guidance from earlier thinkers. During this time, I also served as a physician for the cathedral chapter and the local community. Medicine was another field that fascinated me, and I applied the same analytical rigor to diagnosing illnesses as I did to studying the stars. Additionally, I wrote a treatise on currency reform, demonstrating my expertise in economics and governance. By 1514, I had developed the basic framework of my heliocentric theory. I wrote a short manuscript, the Commentarialist, Little Commentary, which outlined my ideas. In it, I proposed that the sun was stationary at the center of the universe, and that Earth and the other planets revolved around it in circular orbits. I also suggested that Earth rotated on its axis daily, accounting for the apparent motion of the stars. The Commentarialist was never published. Instead, I circulated it privately among trusted colleagues. I was aware of the controversial nature of my ideas. To challenge the geocentric model was to challenge the authority of centuries of scholarship, as well as the teachings of the Church. I knew that such a challenge could provoke ridicule, hostility, or worse. For the next 2 decades, I continued to refine my heliocentric model in relative obscurity. I made more observations, performed intricate calculations, and sought to address potential criticisms. I also corresponded with other scholars who shared my interest in astronomy, though I remained cautious about revealing the full extent of my ideas. My reluctance to publish was not born of doubt. I was confident in the accuracy of my model. Rather, I feared the social and theological implications. The Church, which held immense power in Europe, had long endorsed the geocentric view as consistent with biblical teachings. To suggest otherwise was to risk accusations of heresy. In the early 1530s, I began writing my magnum opus, De Revolutionibus Orbium Coelestium, on the revolutions of the heavenly spheres. This book represented the culmination of decades of work. It was a comprehensive and mathematically rigorous presentation of the heliocentric model, complete with tables and diagrams to support my arguments. Encouraged by George Joachim Redicus, a young mathematician and astronomer who admired my work, I finally agreed to publish the book. In 1543, De Revolutionibus was printed in Nuremberg. By then, I was gravely ill, suffering from a stroke. According to tradition, I received a copy of the book on my deathbed, just before passing away on May 24th, 1543. The initial reaction to my work was mixed. Many scholars admired its mathematical elegance, but hesitated to embrace its conclusions. The heliocentric model was a direct challenge to the geocentric view, which had been endorsed by both the scientific and religious establishments for over 1,000 years. Over time, however, my ideas gained traction, inspiring a new generation of scientists, including Galileo Galilei, Johannes Kepler, and Isaac Newton. Today, I am remembered as the father of modern astronomy. My heliocentric model transformed our understanding of the universe, laying the foundation for the scientific revolution. My life was one of quiet perseverance, driven by a belief that the cosmos was governed by order and reason. Though I lived in an age of dogma and tradition, I dared to look beyond the boundaries of convention and glimpse the infinite. I am Nicolaus Copernicus, a seeker of truth whose vision changed the course of history.